Nope. Nope, you can't do that. You just killed yourself. Why did you do that? So D4C Love Train is basically my guilty pleasure stand in this game. It's incredibly lame, it's not exactly hard to play, it just does big boy damage and you kind of just hold forward, press buttons, and a lot of the time, it just works. When it comes to just turning your brain off and still getting results, this is probably the stand for exactly that. But it does have its drawbacks, and one of those is that people that actually know what they're doing can actually counter it pretty easily. But frankly, most people are not that, so D4C Love Train is a menace. I'll talk about all that kind of stuff and strategies though, so let's jump to the moveset so that we can get there quicker. D4C Love Train's general kit is actually quite strong. The first move he has access to is Pocket Revolver, which you just take out a revolver and shoot the opponent. Pretty simple stuff. The second is Dimensional Clones, which summons up to 3 clones of yourself to attack your opponent. It also should be noted that you can hit X while hovering over one of your clones to automatically swap yourself with that clone. It also has access to Dimensional Victim Clone, which summons a clone of your enemy that goes directly towards them, and once it makes contact with them, it explodes. Dimension Hop, which after an animation puts you into your own separate pocket dimension, where the effects of the regular world don't apply. Things like Time Stop don't work here, so if someone time stops in the real world, it will not affect you in your dimension. It also should be noted that for some reason, other D4Cs share this dimension as well, so they can follow you in by using their own Dimension Hop. And if someone is inside of your cape when you use it, it brings them with you too. And finally, the stand's namesake, Love Train. This ability makes all the damage you take reflected to those around you. And there are a lot of subtle nuances that have to do with Love Train, but I'll talk about that in strategies. So speaking of strategies, let's get to it. Just kidding, as per usual, I forgot to include the skill tree. Quick note about the skill tree, all of the stat points got wiped recently, and I lost my build for this stand, and don't remember what it was. The old build I had I think was better, but I can't remember exactly what I did. This one works though, so go for it. Alright, so when it comes to strategies for D4C Love Train, I'm going to start with the most important thing right off the bat, and that is Love Train itself. This move has a lot of uses, and I see a lot of people using it just flat out wrong, and I think the main reason they use it wrong is because they don't think about their skill tree before getting it. Love Train against anyone but Act 4 is effectively free damage, and it's actually quite easy to counter, but most people don't. The thing about Love Train is 2 things. First of all, how long it lasts after you manually end it is based entirely on how many upgrades you have. I know some of you were looking at the skill tree I just had and you were really confused, and you were like, why the hell would you ever max out Love Train? There's no way you would ever need it to last that long, and the reason for that is because you can get basically a full barrage off before the Love Train ends. It's really, really good. And on that note, if you're fighting against Love Train and you don't want to get killed by it, it's very, very easy to just either 1, run away from it, unless you're in 2v2s or 1v1s, in which case there's not too many places you can run from it, or 2, just hold block. Once the Love Train uses some sort of move to break your block, that's both damage they've lost and time at the end of their Love Train that they've lost. If they're gonna get the barrage anyway, you might as well waste some of their time by forcing them to use something to block break you. Now another thing on Love Train is that it will not help you against time stops. It probably should, but it doesn't. I have no idea why it doesn't, but it is the way it is. And because when you start Love Train, you have to stand perfectly still for a little bit, it means that if you use this against a freely TSing stand and they know what they're doing, they're just gonna see you use it, immediately time stop, and kill you for it. So when it comes down to when you should use Love Train, I would honestly say against TS stands, you should only use it after a block break, use it, and then immediately barrage. This will mean that they can't time stop you and they're gonna take all your damage. Against other non-TS stands, the best time is to use it when there's an extremely predictable attack so you can reflect the damage and then get your barrage on top of that, or when you're getting comboed since it comes out almost immediately and will break you free most of the time. The last note about Love Train is that when you first start it, there's a small grace period where you can use moves and it won't end the Love Train. This means that if you start charging Haman right as you use it, you can charge your full bar without disabling your Love Train. It's a really helpful tech, and I basically see nobody doing it. I know that's a lot, but I think I'm finally done talking about Love Train and we can move on to the other moves. Your Pocket Revolver is actually very integral to your damage output, as well as being a really solid block break, considering that it can't be parried. The Pocket Revolver's projectile speed is really quick, which means that it's quite easy to land the Pocket Revolver, and it does a decent chunk of damage. Although you don't want to use the Pocket Revolver all the time, because sometimes you want to hang on to it so that you can try to use it to block break. Because of how high damage your stand is, getting a block break and then just doing mouse ones will do a ton of HP. You don't even need to use your abilities after doing a block break. One thing to consider though is that right now projectiles have a tendency of going backwards. Hopefully by the time you've watched this video long into the future, this has been fixed. But as of right now, sometimes you'll go for a block read, you'll get it, you'll shoot the revolver, and it will just go backwards and you'll miss. So it's not exactly a reliable block break, but it is quick, and if you have your quick draw leveled up enough, you don't get punished for it that bad. When it comes to both of your clone moves, this is where things get kind of complicated. Admittedly, I'm not super knowledgeable on how the clones interact with stuff like counters, and that's the biggest problem you have with your clones. I do know in particular that the explosive clone's explosion, when countered, affects you, the person. This means that if you throw out an explosive clone at an enemy with a counter and they counter it, you get punished for it. It's incredibly easy to do and can screw you over very often. However, counters have range, so sometimes throwing this out and then running the other direction will not only make your opponent waste their counter, but you get the damage as well. So sometimes it's just a coin flip. Most of the time, it's better to just try to bait the counter than to use this move. There's two other things I want to mention about it though, and the first one is that it has a really low cooldown for how much damage it does. The explosive clone can do upwards of 40 damage. That's a lot for something that aims itself and can't be blocked. But something to note is that good players have gotten the hang of killing the explosive clone. A lot of bad players will run into it and blow up anyway while trying to kill it, but I've seen more than a few people able to just easily pick off the explosive clone without any trouble. Fortunately for you, most people at YBA suck, so they will not be able to deal with your explosive clones and you can just throw them out. And the other thing that's really important to the explosive clone, and I probably should have mentioned earlier, is that it's your only protection against time stop. Just like with my Killer Queen review, if you use explosive clone as someone's time stopping and the move finishes after time has stopped, the explosive clone will come out anyway. This means that if you time your victim clone correctly against a time stop stand, they completely lose all of their damage in TS. It's not easy to time, but it does make it so that you're not completely helpless against time stop stands. I know I said there was only two things I wanted to mention, but the third one applies to this move and the next move I'm going to talk about, which is if you get ragdolled during this move, the clone will not come out. But it comes out so quickly that if someone tries to ragdoll you, they'll probably get blown up anyway, and that's not a good trade for them. Anyways, next up is your normal dimensional clones. The dimensional clones are also really important to your kit. A lot of people are very bad at dealing with dimensional clones, and most of the time, they'll just barrage your clones. This is exactly what you want them to do. If they barrage your clones, you have two options. You can try to run over there and attack them, or you can clone swap with one of your clones and then barrage them back. Any opportunity to get a barrage as D4C Love Train is exactly what you need, because barrage trades get you tons of damage since you out DPS every single other stand in the game. The dimensional clones are also very strong in 2v2s if you can use them properly, because you can use them to get the enemy teammate completely out of the fight and 2v1 someone. And 2v1s in this game, if you know what you're doing, are brutal. This is one of those moves that in 1v1s you should be using basically as often as you can. And the other thing that I said about counters before almost seemingly doesn't apply to this. I've seen a lot of instances where the clones get countered by stuff, and I'm not sure if this is a bug or if it's intended, but it feels like sometimes I get hit too, but I haven't played with it enough to say for sure. What I can say is earlier I had an instance where a KCR epitaphed the clone and the clone got Raging Demoned. But I don't have anything other than that, so I don't think it's super concrete. And finally, the last move we need to talk about is Dimensional Hop, and I left this one at the end because honestly it kinda sucks. This move can be good in SBR and is very good in main game, but anywhere else it's almost totally useless. Unless you're a crackhead and you max out your quick draw, it is a long enough startup that most people can just react to it and jump inside of your dimension with you and beat you up. And when you get in there, you can't really do anything. You can't pose to heal and your opponent can, so they can heal while you can't. I suppose you could charge him on, but it's not really that hard to do that, and you could always just use Love Train to do it. And GER can use Return to Zero and kick you out of it and then combo you for it. So all in all, Dimensional Hop is kinda bad, but it's definitely situational, and I think most of you that watch these videos play main game and SBR anyway and don't even play the other modes. So for you guys, it'll actually be pretty good. The last tip I'll give you for you main game players is that if you use your Dimensional Hop by dashing and then jumping off of a roof, people are usually not going to be able to get you and you can get away for free. If you're low on health in main game, you can just pop a Love Train, go onto a roof, dash off of it, and use Dimensional Hop while you're falling. Free escape, and people will almost certainly get mad at you for it. But hey, it works. With that, I don't think I have too much else to say when it comes to D4C Love Train and strategies, so let's conclude. As I've already said, D4C Love Train is really fun to play, and I think the reason it's fun to play is just the simplicity of it. Sometimes you don't want to have to go through the effort of going through a massive 20-hit combo in order to get damage. Sometimes you just want to dash, barrage first like an idiot, and still win the fight. And with this stand, you can do that. That, and one of its best moves, just literally aims itself. So honestly, it's a lot of fun to play, and anybody could use it. The only problem I have with D4C is the fact that D4C regular is just an objectively worse version of Love Train. And I really don't like when stands do this, and I'm hoping that someday maybe this will get changed. Any of the stands like this and Killer Queen that just have directly inferior versions to their Requiem or Evolved counterparts kind of just rubs me the wrong way. I don't like when they add stands that are just copy paste to the old one but do more damage or have better moves, but continue to retain the moves from the previous stand. Like, I'm sure I will never do a review on normal D4C, because why would I? There's literally no reason to use it other than to use a heart and get D4C Love Train. As for balance, I'd say that D4C Love Train is pretty well balanced. I don't know, maybe there's some standout things that I haven't seen before that make it broken, but other than the vamp clones thing, for those who don't know, if a vampire kills his own clones, he gets blood. It's really stupid. I hope it gets patched out, although I'm not even sure if it's a bug. But other than that, I don't think there's really any standout bugs with this stand either. Clones can be kind of jank, but I don't think that's ever going to be able to change, so oh well. And it's not like that really heavily affects the stand anyway. One last thing before I conclude, and this isn't really a D4C Love Train thing, more so that it's just a my channel thing in general, but I've noticed that there's quite a few people that are not really happy with how I do my stand reviews when I say things are bad. Namely the people who think Whitesnake and Killer Queen Bites the Dust are good stands. And while I continue to disagree with you, here's the deal. What I say about those stands is my opinion and my opinion alone. You don't have to agree with my opinion, and I don't have to agree with yours. And neither of us are lesser people for disagreeing on what is and isn't good. I have my reasons for thinking it, and it's in my video, and you have yours, which I still don't really understand. And you know what? That is the way it is, and I don't know if that's ever gonna change. I would wager to say it probably won't. And there's really nothing wrong with that. Basically what I'm getting at is agreeing to disagree is not a bad thing, and I don't think anyone's feelings should get hurt if I say that your favorite stand is bad. Just because I think it's bad doesn't mean that you can't enjoy it. Anyways, that's all I got, so have a wonderful day or night wherever you are, and I'll see you next time.